Hello everyone, Mike Levin here, September 19th, 2021, Sunday, around 1 o'clock. And on my way back from some quick grocery shopping I just did, and I shot a video on the way there, and it ended up being about Ikigai. I don't know if I have the pronunciation right, and since I shot the video I had to go look up the name of this Japanese principle, but it's spelled I-K-I-G-A-I. 6 letters, so it's easy to remember the spelling, hard to remember the pronunciation. I-K-I-G-A-I, Ikigai. So it's the intersection of what you love to do and what you're good at and what you get paid for and what the world needs. It's a really great concept. And, you know, it's a Venn diagram, a 4-way Venn diagram with these 4 circles coming together, meeting in the middle, with Ikigai in the middle, sort of like a wonderful state of being in. Very, you know, no regrets, spiritual satisfaction kind of place to be. I started out wanting to talk about, I believe, the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule. You know, I'm going to start to organize. I'm going to start to go from what I've been doing, sort of living life in a sequential way, and that's where that video started out. And then I lost track of. I was trying to get to the 80-20 rule. I've always had difficult with the middle state of of the way things can be organized. So there's linear sequential, like the way life really happens, laid out on a timeline as such, the one true order of things. There is the human edited order of things, in which you infuse meaning by moving things around, trimming out the fat, restating things, and basically making it easier for humans to consume, to make the information more usable. You might think infographics and databases. And then there's the third way, which is the spontaneous lookup, the tip of your tongue. It's the way search works and why Google had grown so big, because people really just want answers. They want them quick, they want them right. They want it, the distilled output of having accumulated a lot in the linear sequential way, i.e. the Googlebot crawl, having gone through a rigorous process of infusing meaning into it and organizing it. It's invisible on Google, but that's building the index. You know, when Google builds the index and says what pages are important on what keyword, they're doing a rough equivalent of that organization technique. It's not exactly the same. You know, Yahoo with their old human edited directory was more of that hierarchical organization that's so common in that middle part. And then the lookup on the right is what drove Google's success. So I've, you know, based my career on how to feed things to Googlebot so that they're instantly looked up, kind of having an intuitive knowledge of that middle step. However, the more traditional middle step, the more traditional organization, I've always had a bit of difficulty with, because I've never wanted to commit. In my psyche, I'm a lot more like Google. You don't want to commit to a particular you know, taxonomy, ontology, or whatever it is, whatever term you want to use for moving things around and giving it meaning. And that's really kind of cowardly. You know, it's hedging your bet. It's going, well, I know I can work by just thinking about linear sequential, like the way I shoot these videos. I barely add the organization. And, you know, having the ability to do things spontaneously expert so that you can hold a good paying job, right? I achieve that expert state, and I sort of skip over that middle stuff, because what are you going to do? Just lay it out for people and teach people how to do what you do? Well, yes, that's basically what I'm going to do. So I'm going to try and get that middle part, and I'm going to try and get it with a bunch of 80-20 rule passes. So the 80-20 rule just asks you to organize your work so that you get a large portion of the benefit of doing the work when you're only about 1/5 of the way in, 20% of the way into the total time and energy that you might see yourself putting into it. So if you were to draw the axes on the horizontal axis is the total amount of time that you would see yourself putting into an effort. On the vertical axis is the amount of payback for your time so far. And so the slope would start out way at the bottom, because when you're just starting out, you have no payback. But the payback should start to spike up rapidly by only 1/5 of the way in. So you get a kind of curve up, and then it levels out, and then it starts coming back down, and then diminishing returns sets in. And some people stick at things so long past diminishing returns that they're wasting their time. They achieve their goal, but they're wasting their time. Other people, stop before any of the benefit is realized, and they're spinning their wheels. So the trick is to not waste your time and to not spin your wheels. It happens to be that there's a golden spot, but you have to order your work correctly, so you start to get the benefit earlier on, assuming that you're not going to put in 100% of the total amount of time that you conceivably see yourself putting on a project. Reality is you're going to probably put in about 1/5, 20% of the total effort you see yourself putting in, because because life is funny. There's a lot of reasons to abort your efforts once started. However, with a series of, and that's the 80-20 rule. When you ask what the 80-20 rule is, the 80-20 rule just states, the 80-20 rule just asks that you should start to plan your tasks, so when you're only 1/5 done, you could have stopped and still have won. The 80-20 rule just asks you to start to plan your tasks, so when you're only 1/5 done, 20%, you could have stopped and still have won, had some return for your work. And that's 1 unit of work. That's like what you're willing to put in a day, for example. This whole model works on a day, works on a week, works on a month. But if you look at it on just a day, and you're, 100%, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, it's 5. If you were going to plan on working 5 solid hours on something, studying, doing work on a deliverable, whatever, that first hour is different from all the others. That first hour is when your energy is fresh and you're at your peak. Bank results. And then if the rest of the 4 hours just go to heck, the next time you put that 5 hours towards it, that next hour of good productivity is going to layer on. So you've got these overlapping slopes of 80-20 rule. So your peak of productivity is constantly high. If you look at a week of this, and I should draw this, I'm charging my Note 8. I'm going to try and get some diagrams and for this stuff. You actually start to get a solid, high quality return on your effort. And that's why the 80-20 rule is not half-assing it, right? People are like, oh, the 80-20 rule is basically saying half-ass it. Just, get good enough and walk away. Good enough is good enough, good enough for government work, good enough for contract work. There's a ton of expressions surrounding it. The kind of work that lowest bidder puts in, right? There's a negative connotation to the 80-20 rule because it's the opposite of perfectionism. Continuing past the point of diminishing returns is the realm of perfectionism because you're polishing that turd. So the reason the 80-20 rule is not half-assing it is because you plan to come back at the same work again later on, maybe with a fresh perspective, with the benefit of the knowledge that you gained from that first time, etc., etc. And that's the video I wanted to make on the way to grocery shopping this morning. But I got into Ikigai, and I got into the linear and organized and spontaneous sequence for things, and so much the better. It's now 2 videos instead of 1. And I'll put some more focus on this. That one became about Ikigai, and this one will become about why the 80-20 rule is not half-assing it if you plan things correctly. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe.